So if you want to know how to manage like a £100 million infrastructure portfolio in the heart of London, you probably assume you need to start at Oxford or Cambridge.
Right. Or maybe, a massive global investment bank or something.
Exactly. But what if the actual blueprint for managing that kind of wealth doesn't start in a boardroom at all?
Yeah. What if it starts by, figuring out how to keep a couple of chickens alive in a dusty town in rural Kenya?
It's wild.
Huh.
It just completely shatters all our preconceived notions of how global authority is actually built.
It really does. I mean, we tend to look at massive success as this straight, polished ladder,
Right,
right?
that it's just step one, step two.
Exactly. But when you look closely at the actual mechanics of how people build lasting influence, it is almost never polished.
No, not at all.
It involves failure, brutal detours, and a very specific type of psychological resilience that you simply cannot learn in a traditional classroom.
And that untraditional, unpolished path is exactly what we are digging into on this deep dive.
Absolutely.
Today, we are exploring the raw reality of the African dream. And, not the idealized cinematic version, but the molecular day-to-day mechanisms of building global authority entirely from scratch.
And our source material for today is just phenomenal. We are analyzing an audio documentary called The Architect of Opportunity.
Yeah, produced by 4BM.
Right, 4BM, which, for those who might be unfamiliar, is a really powerful global collaborative network and media platform. They're dedicated to elevating Black and African professionals.
And what makes this deep dive particularly exciting is our vantage point right now.
Oh, definitely.
Because we are recording this today in 2026, which perfectly aligns with the climax of the documentary itself. We actually get to witness the real-time results of a narrative that has been building for decades.
It's just a phenomenal trajectory to watch unfold.
It really is. So we are going to trace a straight line from an 8-year-old boy holding a small metal trunk at a boarding school in rural Kenya in 1998, all the way to a man managing those £100 million+ infrastructure portfolios in London today.
It's quite the leap.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because to understand the executive in London, we really have to start with that 8-year-old boy.
We do.
The year is 1998,
Yeah.
and his name is George Aketch. He is sent to a boarding school in Oyugis in the Nyanza region.
Right.
And let's just, think about the emotional baseline being set here. At 8 years old, you are entirely stripped of your daily safety net.
Yeah, he was only seeing his family during the school holidays.
Exactly. The emotional weight of that is just heavy. But George actually credits this exact experience with teaching him discipline, independence, and how to be deeply comfortable being uncomfortable.
What's fascinating here is the psychological foundation being laid. These early years weren't just about traditional education.
Right.
They were about survival and really early asset management. He isn't just surviving, he is actively building a mental framework for risk tolerance.
Yeah, when you're forced to be independent, that early unfamiliar environments stop feeling like threats.
Exactly. They start feeling like puzzles to be solved.
And he was solving those puzzles primarily outside the classroom, heavily on the sports pitches, actually. Football, basketball, rugby.
Birds are huge here.
The documentary highlights a brutal but necessary lesson he learned through athletics. You can train with every fiber of your being, you can execute a game plan perfectly,
Yep.
and you can still get absolutely crushed on game day, but you just have to show up the next day anyway.
Because sports reflect the macroeconomic reality of the environment he was growing up in.
That's a good point.
The source makes a very sharp observation about Kenya. Raw talent and undeniably high intelligence are everywhere. You walk down the street and you're surrounded by potential.
Yeah, the talent is undeniable.
But what is missing is the exposure and the belief, the infrastructure to capture it. When you play sports in that environment, you learn very quickly that talent alone will not save you.
Right, you need that mental fortitude to wake up the morning after a devastating loss, shake it off, and get back to practice.
Exactly. It's about training and maintenance.
And that concept of maintenance brings up a crucial detail from later in George's life that actually applies perfectly here. It involves his uncles, Olok and Onjiro.
Oh, the chickens and goats.
Yes. When George was young, they gave him chickens and goats to look after. Now, George admits he thought they were just gifts, like pets.
Sure, what kid wouldn't?
Right. But looking back, he realizes this was a highly deliberate early masterclass in stewardship.
It really was a brilliant way to teach him.
But wait, can we really compare taking care of a few goats in rural Nyanza to managing millions of pounds in the UK? Isn't that a bit of a stretch?
I know, I know. On the surface, the scale makes it seem absurd. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it feels like a massive romantic leap.
But if we break down the actual mechanics of asset management, the behavioral algorithm is identical. As George says, if you can manage 1 pound properly, you can manage 100 million pounds.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Think about what a goat represents to a microeconomy. It's an asset. And if you manage it correctly, it yields a return. The chickens multiplied, the goats multiplied.
Right, they compound.
Exactly. The underlying principle of taking care of what you've been given is identical, regardless of scale. If you consume the asset immediately, you destroy your future yield. If you neglect its maintenance, it dies.
So when he's managing a massive UK public sector budget today, he's basically doing the exact same thing.
Yes, assessing risk, managing operational expenditures, and ensuring a long-term yield. The discipline was just permanently wired into his brain in Nyanza.
That's incredible. It's all about compounding growth. And that precise understanding makes his next life move incredibly baffling to me.
Wow, detour.
Yeah, the massive detour. Let's look at 2015. George is on this highly respectable, very safe path. He's pursuing civil engineering.
Great. He was really inspired by that airstrip in Vipingo.
Yeah, he saw how a single line of asphalt could completely transform the GDP of an entire coastline. So he's studying concrete, steel, load-bearing physics.
It's the ultimate linear path for someone looking to build a stable life.
But then he just hits the brakes.
Yeah.
He completely derails this safe narrative. He takes out a bank loan, buys 2 cars, and starts driving grueling night shifts for early-stage Uber in Nairobi.
It's such a wild pivot.
So he's studying massive infrastructure, and he decides to become an Uber driver. That sounds like a panic move, not a career strategy.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we realize he wasn't abandoning his trajectory at all. He didn't become just an Uber driver. He became an entrepreneur.
Okay, how so?
People looked at him and thought he was just hustling for pocket money. But he took on debt to acquire capital assets, the cars. He had to manage depreciation, fuel overhead, optimize his routes.
So it was a high-pressure masterclass in unit economics.
Precisely. Those midnight shifts were a temporary, deliberate deposit into his bank account of resilience. He refused to quit. He was proving he could survive outside a traditional institution.
And the friction of that environment is what ultimately places him directly in the path of the most critical catalyst in his story.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, the mentor.
Right. He meets a mentor named M.O. Up until this point, George views the world through the lens of traditional engineering, concrete and steel.
Yeah, physical, static things.
But M.O. steps in and completely shatters that worldview.
M.O. essentially grabs George by the shoulders and points him toward the frontier. He pushes him into artificial intelligence, coding, and this relentless curiosity.
He makes George realize that if you only know concrete, you're going to be left behind by the digital architecture that runs it.
Exactly.
And M.O. gives him this defining piece of advice, the golden rule. He tells him, never become so successful that you stop being a student.
It's such a brilliant safeguard against arrogance. In technology, the moment you think you've mastered it, the market innovates right past you.
And that exact relentless curiosity is what led George to join the founding team of 4BM in 2016. So he's got this incredible stack of skills now: boarding school resilience, civil engineering, cash flow reality from Uber, and now tech.
He is a walking multi-tool.
But how does a resilient, tech-savvy engineer actually break into a closed global market?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right, because he takes a massive gamble and moves to the United Kingdom. And if this were a movie, he'd just hand in his resume and get a corner office.
But the global market does not care about your cinematic narrative.
Not at all. The source emphasizes the brutal reality here. There was no red carpet, only a wall of rejection emails.
Corporate structures just despise unknown variables.
Yeah, and George was an unknown variable. The documentary paints this visceral image of him sitting in his car after failed interviews, just staring at the steering wheel, asking out loud what more he needed to do.
It's heartbreaking. He even almost quit to pursue film just to escape the friction.
But here's where it gets really interesting, because it wasn't a magic resume trick that saved his career.
No, it wasn't.
It's the 4BM network. M.O. connected him to his first freelance construction project in the UK. And once that door cracked open, construction became a calling.
This raises an important question, though, about who we seek counsel from during our darkest moments.
Yeah, that's so true.
When you're staring at a wall of rejection, it is so easy to internalize it. But George had this profound realization during that period. If you want to fly high, don't ask for advice from people without wings.
That is such a powerful quote.
It really is. Relying on a vetted network is what ultimately demystifies the black box of global success. Mo transferred his own institutional credibility to George. He de-risked him for the employer.
And the second George proved his competence on British soil, he just kicked the door wide open.
He really did.
Which brings us to today, 2026. What happens when preparation finally meets opportunity at the highest level?
Well, you get George sitting at the heart of multidisciplinary teams.
Exactly. He is delivering portfolios worth over 100 million pounds. The modern portfolio he handles is staggering.
The specifics are incredible.
We're talking the Ministry of Justice, the Department for Work and Pensions, the Ministry of Defense, and the Lloyds Bank headquarters.
It's massive scale.
And he isn't just pouring concrete. He is using AI to predict engineering failures and decarbonizing heritage structures.
Which, by the way, is incredibly complex. You can't just tear down a century-old heritage structure in the UK and build a glass box.
Right, you have to preserve the history.
Exactly. You have to decarbonize while preserving its integrity. This is where MO's tech push intersects perfectly with civil engineering. George is using algorithms to predict structural fatigue before a hairline fracture becomes a disaster.
He is literally dragging historical infrastructure into the modern era. And he is also collaboratively scaling real estate acquisitions across both the UK and Kenya with his brother, Dennis, through G-Hope Holdings.
So he's building a bridge between his past and his present.
So what does this all mean?
Well, it means we are seeing the 4BM legacy in action. This is the thesis playing out.
Transforming young Africans from a state of survival into collaborative global authorities.
Yes. Because notice how his success is entirely intertwined with others. He builds with his brother. He leverages MO's network. Wealth and legacy are built quietly, and most importantly, they are built together.
That is incredible. And to wrap this up, I want to share a powerful piece of advice M.O. once sent to George from the author Robert Greene.
Oh, the green philosophy, yeah.
It's deeply counterintuitive. Greene argues that one should actually wish for people to experience betrayal, unfairness, and hardship.
It sounds so harsh to wish that on someone.
It does, right.
Yeah.
But the logic is that success is a terrible teacher. Success makes you soft. But hardship, like those grueling Uber shifts or the rejection emails, those experiences teach lessons that success never can.
Which perfectly reinforces George's ultimate message to the 4BM network.
Yeah.
Your current circumstances are temporary. Your dreams are permanent. Every single disappointment he faced was just preparation for leadership and service?
Where you start does not determine where you finish.
Absolutely not.
So what stands out to you in George's journey? As you listen to this, I want you to think about a severe rejection or baffling detour you are facing right now.
Yeah, something that feels like a permanent failure.
Exactly. If we were recording an audio documentary about your life 10 years from now, how would you rewrite that exact moment? Not as a failure, but as the critical deposit into your own resilience bank account that made your future success inevitable.